The lighting's a little bit off here today, but we'll push on. Yesterday I did a video about the emotional roller coaster process that going for a USA Sports Scholarship can be, both for parents and athletes. It creates the opportunity for parents and athletes to have a deeper discussion around a whole range of complex issues than you may otherwise normally have in a day-to-day process when you're just going through the usual norms. And it brings up a whole lot of sort of questions around whether you're a student athlete or whether you're a parent. How do you personally deal with things and processes, and then how do you actually have that conversation as a family? And that obviously triggered some questions, because I've had a few phone calls from parents of athletes who are on our Game Changer program. So if you're not familiar with what we do, we build a course, a 30-day game plan, and you can get a link to that course in the description with this video. And basically that course is designed to help student athletes and their parents through the initial process, the initial discovery phase, the planning process, and the steps that you need to take to put yourself in the best position to be offered a sports scholarship. And part of that process is just asking yourself some important questions. They're difficult questions, but not from the perspective of there's a right or wrong answer, and if you get the wrong answer, it's going to be traumatic for you. They're difficult questions in that this process of going for a sports scholarship opens up another whole world of opportunities for you, which are different to the road well travelled for pretty much most of the other athletes and parents that you're going to be engaging with. So you're doing something different, you're doing something outside of the norm as an international student athlete, and you're striving for something that's big. It's a huge thing. So as you're going through that process of getting clarity around what it is that you want, and then understanding why it's important to you, that process can be difficult. And the big thing about this is a lot of times there's no right or wrong choices. There's just different pathways, different sliding doors. You can go in a different direction. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, just means that the outcomes might be different, and your career might look a little bit differently, or your journey might look a little bit differently, but you'll be perfectly fine if you're applying yourself in the right processes and principles either way. It's just going to be different. So sometimes those conversations can be really challenging for parents. So how do you engage with your child around some really big decisions that they're not necessarily used to analysing, and as parents we're potentially not really used to analysing some of these big picture decisions. So one of the questions is how do we have that conversation? And I alluded to some difficult choices that not we as such, that we had to mentor or talk to one of our daughters about during the week. She's got a goal, she knows what she wants, and she knows what she's working towards, but she was presented with a scenario that meant that she had to make some tough choices. And so rather than tell her what to do or even give her advice, we basically just walked her through a process and said, okay, right, let's just do a simple pros and cons scenario. Basically what we got her to do was write down what's important to her and why is it important. And then we just got her to 2 blank sheets of paper, option A, option B, divide it up like we see here, and just put the pros and cons in each. And just talking through that process allowed her to gain clarity around what was important and what was she striving for and why was it important. And then this process allowed her to go, okay, these are my options. And as it turned out, we ended up with 5 pros and 3 cons for each option. So what that proved to her going through this process, that there were two different choices, but there was no wrong choice. They were just different, okay? But the decision of one or another meant that once she made a commitment to either option, she just had to go all in, okay? Because she was doing it for the right reasons. She knew why she was doing it, and then it was just a matter of going, okay, make the tough decision and then go all in. And there were tough decisions both ways, but there was no right or wrong, okay? So no one was going to lose an eye. So, yeah, I'm no psychologist. That's just a process that we went through. Sometimes it can appear, and I touched on this earlier, it can appear that that your child is disengaged from the process. At the moment, they might be disengaged from the process because they haven't taken ownership of these decisions just yet. And going through the process of just going, you know what, now that we've started looking into this process, and again, this sort of builds through the 30-day game plan. You start to get clarity really early on in the piece by going and saying, okay, what's on offer? What are our options? And is this interesting to us? Yes, it is, right. Well, what are the things that we need to do now? What's the process we need to do now of investigation, creating a plan to follow this path? But along the way, it's really important to establish, what we've got here is two options. So we've made a decision that we're going to uni. You've got uni at home and uni in the USA. Right, so one of the things that we talk about a lot is a degree is a degree is a degree. You get a degree from any quality university. Having a degree nowadays is not your differentiator, right? It doesn't stand you above anybody else with a degree. Nowadays it's got to the point where students are now going out and they're doing a double degree, right, to try and create a point of difference. Yeah, I don't just have a business degree, I've got a business and law degree. Then once they get into the workforce, they realise that their degree is not the point of difference, so they're going for an MBA. So, you've got to have these minimum benchmark requirements to get a seat at the table, get the interview, put yourself in the running for the job. But the point of difference is you and your personality, the soft skills. So from a student's perspective, it's about how are you as an individual making yourself stand out against all of the other university candidates that are going for your first job or for your next career progression. And this is where the decision making starts to come down to, from an academic perspective, do I do uni at home? In which case, in my home market, what's my point of difference? How am I standing out? Or do I do uni abroad, get the same degree, and become more worldly, have a whole international network of connections and people that I can collaborate with and rely on, and train as an elite athlete as opposed to training domestically, potentially in your club scenario, and all of the skills, life experiences, adventures and stories that you get to tell from that international experiences versus maybe just going through your traditional approach with your home university. There's some of the decision-making processes that you as a student athlete need to go through. What's the value add? So that's the academic side, and then it's about, well, if I'm looking to play at an elite level, I'm looking to, say, go into a major program with a university in my sports, whether it's NCAA Division 1 or some other elite program in a different division. If sports is a high priority, what's the value of going into an elite program in the States versus staying at home and, from a sporting perspective, going through the path that you're on with the sport that you play. Depending on what level that you're at, you might be just missing out on representative caps, state caps. The band narrows at the as you go higher and higher into a lot of these elite sporting programs, the opportunities thin out dramatically, and you might not just be at that level. That doesn't make you a bad player. It just means that there's a lot of competition for those elite program opportunities in most sports in most countries. And then there's this massive layer of people or players and athletes who are just there, but they're looking for that edge. That might be the reason that you're going to the USA. You just need to understand what it is for you and why it's important to you. And this process, whether it's comparing university experience at home versus university experience in the USA, whether it's sporting experience at home versus sporting experience in the USA, whatever the primary motivator is for you, just going through this simple pros and cons process can help you get clarity around that whole thing. For parents, it's a way of having an in-depth conversation which is not confrontational with student athletes. If you're the athlete watching this, it's a way for you to get clarity of what's important to you and why do I need to buy into whatever decision I go with. I need to buy into it, and I just need to fully commit 100%. What we're going to go into and what we'll be doing more and more of over time is looking at mindset and process, okay? Because you can have the right mindset, but if you've got the wrong process, you can fall over or you can burn yourself out, and you don't want to do either. You don't want to underperform because you're not putting in the effort, and you don't want to underperform because you're trying too hard. So it's about balance. How do you optimize your personal performance so that you hit the goals that you're after? Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot more of deep diving into mindset and personal development at a student athlete level, because I think that's something that's sadly missing and very hard to find in a convenient way within in cyberspace, doing the whole Google thing. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. We'll be doing a lot more of that over time. And yeah, if you want to fast track your way through this whole decision-making process, if you're just investigating US sports scholarships for the first time, or you're currently with a recruitment agency but you're struggling with the process of engagement with them, then have a look at our 30-day game plan. Click on the link in the description with this video. It will help you. It will help you get clarity. It'll help you systemize or plan the process and make it easy for you. Point you in the direction of the resources that you should be looking at. So it makes it really easy and convenient to find. And if you're with an agency, it will also help you ask the tough questions of the agency, and also make sure that you're working the right way with the agency to maximize the value out of the investment that you've spent, because that was the biggest challenge that we had. We invested a lot of money with a recruitment agency, didn't get the result we were after, so then we had to go it alone at the last minute. So our 30-day game plan, link in the description box, it can help you fast track the process, and just click on the link and follow your nose for more detail on that. So yeah, hope you found that useful. If you've got any other questions that you want to explore, just pop them into the comments or message us, and we'll try and cover off on those for you.